Yes, sir.
over to the Premier League, right? And the big game over the weekend, Chelsea versus Liverpool. Liverpool come through 2-1 winners in that one. And Liverpool are leading the league. Of course, coming into this game, Arne Slot, he'd also admitted that they hadn't yet played a big, not a big team, but a competitive team, a team that is playing well. And Chelsea have been playing well. And they gave a good account of themselves in that game against Liverpool. But what do you make of Liverpool this season under Slot? Being on top of the log, title challenges? Legit title challenges?
I mean, they haven't played a big team, as he says, right, or a big test, because United are not testing it. We're not testing anyone. Maybe they're back. We'll see. But that's fun. I think he's got a run of 9 games where there's a Aston Villa, there's a Real Madrid, there's a City. They are going to be tested, right? I think there's an Arsenal as well, and then we'll see where he is with that side. If I look at the two teams and the contrasting places where they are, I think Chelsea are trying to be where Liverpool are in terms of we've got set players in certain positions that we know what to get from them. Because at this point in time, the backline is still chopping up and changing. Reece James is back now. You want to integrate him. Malagusto is there. What about Kukurea? What about Badiashile? Chukwuemeka? So there are questions at the back for Chelsea in terms of their starting four. Who is their preferred starting four when everyone is fit? And then we saw Enzo on the bench. I don't know if that's how they're going to continue going forward. But then Sancho's playing. They're moving parts going forward as well. But Cole Palmer, Nicholas Jackson, I think, are mainstays in terms of that attacking line. So they're trying to be a cohesive unit and then attack because they definitely have the talent. They've got Lavia, they've got Caicedo, they've got lots of options in terms of how they're going to play and what they want to do with the ball. Whereas Liverpool have a cohesive unit. They've got a structure where they know what to get from each player, to the point where Arne Slot sometimes plays Darwin Núñez, sometimes he plays Jota, sometimes he plays Curtis Jones, sometimes he plays Elliott, and he can change around all those positions and still get a result, because I think they've got an identity. So far, man, I think except for the blip at Forest, except for being tested here and there, because especially when you look at them in the Champions League as well, they still look good. So are they challenges? I think Slot has got them. He's still got the Klopp DNA in terms of he doesn't want to jig too much and all of a sudden say, I want to play Endo. He's not doing Mangoba, basically. And he's benefiting from that, because what Liverpool were, right, they weren't the title challenges as Arsenal were in the last 2 seasons, because, well, they failed in the last one. But what they were is that they were still a promising side. They were still a good side, because as much as they were not performing in the league, they were decent in the Champions League. They were still a side that was credible, whereas Chelsea are putting together parts and they're still spending money. So where do I see this side having 1-2-0? That one, they're a side that can get the result, because it was not an easy asking against Chelsea, number one. Number two, with that mix-up of the front three players, you still want to figure things out. Jota goes down injured, but when they do figure things out, they win. So I think they're further up ahead than what we thought they'd be, because we thought replacing Klopp will be a big task. They're not going to necessarily fire as well as you expect from them. Maybe if they were in 3 or 4, you wouldn't be mad if they're in position 3 or 4 or 5. But because now they are in the top 2, then you look at their results and you're like, they're quite good. Especially when you look at how City had to toil for their results. So they're looking very good.
I think they're maxing out, Chuck.
I think they're maxing out.
I think they're maxing out right now. And the question is, are they going to be able to continue doing that? Because even in that game against Chelsea, Chelsea had a majority of the ball, and I think Chelsea could have gotten a result in that match. And the question is going to be, are you able to do it against the tougher teams on a regular basis? And for me, particularly in that midfield, I'm still not yet convinced. I still do think that they need something else in that midfield. Because at the back they're solid, right? Konate and Virgil are solid, and Trent and Robbo are solid as well.
Yeah.
And then in the front line, they've just got like a wealth of options to choose from. But then that's also the question in terms of can you really rely on Darwin? If Jota's injury is something that keeps him out for a extended period of time, can you really rely on him? And Gakpo is still not quite the Gakpo that we see with the Netherlands. You know, we saw at the Euros. But if you do have Diaz continue in the vein that he started the season, you'll be fine. And Salah continues to be Mo Salah, so that largely should be fine. But in the middle there, Szoboszlai is not quite impressive for me. You know, Curtis Jones was man of the match in the game against Chelsea, and the question is going to be, can he take that step to be consistently that player in most matches? We're gonna find out. You know, at this point in time, though, like if I asked you the question, would you hang your hat on Curtis Jones being one of the main contributors in a team that's going to win the Premier League and is going to go deep in the Champions League? there are still question marks around that. And then you have McAllister who started on the bench. And when he plays as the six. But the guy who's been most impressive in that position is Gravenberg. So how do you fit them in together at the same time? If Gravenberg does go down, do you have someone else of that ilk who can come in and do the job? So I think if things stay as they are in terms of all their players are available throughout the season, Slot has proven that he's won the players over, and he can continue to have them churning out these results. But if their level is closer to what you saw against Chelsea, you're going to play better teams than Chelsea. And they're going to bring what Chelsea brought, but on an even higher level. And the question is, how do you respond to that? I do think, though, that there are title challenges, not only because of what they've done, even if they do maybe take a step backwards a little bit, but because of what is happening around. At the moment, you have Arsenal, and they're struggling with injuries as well as discipline or the refs, however you want to spin that. And you've got Manchester City, who, if Haaland is not scoring, you're still asking the question, who's scoring? Although with Manchester City, it kind of feels useless to have conversations like this about them at this point in the season, because then the last 10 games are going to come and they're going to be Manchester City. And it's like, well, what was all of that about? But in terms of what we're seeing right now in front of our eyes, it's Haaland or bust over there. So it doesn't feel as if the league is where it was maybe at the height of Klopp versus Guardiola, where these two teams are just like and in a different stratosphere, and you need to go there in order to win the league. I don't think it's quite that. It doesn't look like it's quite that. So they are in it because of that. But I think at the moment they are maxing out their potential, and the only way to go from there tends to be down.
I think on Klopp's last dance, they maxed out as well, and they went pretty deep in the title run, right? And they only fell away, 6-7 games to go, which isn't too bad. So if you look at that, right, and the fact that Chelsea did push them, Chelsea also pushed City. So I think they are a credible opposition.
Chuck, if you're gonna win, if you're gonna be challenging for the title, there's no falling away. You can't fall away with 6 to 10 games to go.
But I think they'll be better under this manager. I think that the ideas and the personnel that he's playing will give them a different look sometimes, because with Klopp, it was plug and play. We know who's playing, we know who's not playing, and we hope that they get good, and eventually some of those players ran out of steam. So I think the fact that he's willing to put in a Gomez to close out the game and do those kind of things, it does refresh his side, and maybe that gives him the edge, I think.